Hey, Warrior Saints. Glad to have you beautiful people in with us as we continue talking about Rage. Not the band. I was flipping through Facebook yesterday, which was funny, after Father Chris had been talking about Rage and all the stuff that comes out of the stuff that we see everywhere. And a friend put like a, quote, hot take. And they even used the words hot take. And they said, apple is the preferred fall flavor, not pumpkin. Period. Changed my mind. And I was like, I prefer pumpkin. I like my pumpkin coffee. I like my pumpkin syrup and stuff. I like it. I like that. I like it more than I like apple. I want apple if I want hot apple cider. And then I was like, why do I care? Why am I getting worked up? And I thought about it. The words change my mind draw you in inherently into this argument. And we even have memes that we throw out there all the time with these ideas that are not that ridiculous, that we've turned into ridiculous ideas because we put the picture of that guy behind a table that says blah, 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 and then underneath, change my mind. Like he's just going to sit there so you can come and you can try to change his mind. And it starts everything off as an argument. It incites us to rage, and it's inciting us to anger because from the outset, it's putting in our minds that this person is never going to change their mind, and somehow I have to be the one responsible for changing it. This is ridiculous. This is not what we do. When has everything in our society just denigrated down to this mentality of change my mind? Then I thought about it. Scripture is telling us to change our minds. It's not telling us to dig our heels in. It's telling us to actually change our mind, but not in the same way that the world is telling you to change your mind, because that's ultimately what is being done in this debate as well. It's inciting you to riot and to anger and to fight. And at the same time, it's drawing you into a mentality where you need to change your mind because what they're telling you is the right answer. Scripture in St. Paul's letter to the Romans speaks to this. He says in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal, the changing, the metamorphosis of your mind. The word, is really this turnaround. It's calling us to leave the sin of the world behind us and to follow what God's commandments are. And he goes further and he finishes it with, so that we can show what it means to follow God. That's what it means to be transformed by the renewal of your mind. That's the change that Scripture is inciting us to. Not this dig your heels in and fight for what you think is right. Rather, be transformed by renewing your mind, by following Scripture, by seeing what is laid out before you and following the path. That is, as we call it, the way of the warrior saint. That path that is Christ's path, which is the way of the cross, which leads us to not just do what I want, but to do what God is showing us, so that we are sacrificing our own will for His, so that we are out there loving God by loving our neighbor. When we do this, we get out of this rage world. We get out of this mentality that like everything has to be, and we're able to actually like, okay, you like apple, and I like pumpkin. We can actually coexist. We can actually live in a world where we both like different things. That is going to be okay. The problem is everyone is going to write that pumpkin is stupid and that no one should like pumpkin. I don't care. I like it. And I like even more telling Father Chris when he stops and asks if I want a Dunkin' Donuts coffee that he needs to order it for me. He doesn't have to like it, but it's what I like. And that's okay. We can coexist, and we can coexist peacefully because our focus is not on doing and having those arguments that distract us ultimately, and maybe tomorrow that's what we'll talk about is distractions, that distract us from our ultimate goal, that become bright, shiny things that push us away from where we are called to be, so that we are not bogged down with these distractions and can actually focus on what God has laid out for us. We'll be back again tomorrow as we continue our crucifixional live streams and continue talking about this stuff. I think tomorrow we are going to talk about distractions. And until we see you then, you keep walking the way that God has called you and is leading you to walk on the way of the warrior saint.